to 75,000 from the current 50,000 only under the new tax regime. Salaried employees will now stand to save at least 17,500 in income tax, is what the Finance Minister came out and announced. She also said that employment-linked incentives based on enrollment into EPFO will also be given. It will focus on first-time employees and offer a one-month wage for all employees in the formal sector for the new entrants. What's also interesting is that angel tax has now been abolished after 2012 when it was brought in for all classes of investors. That's a demand that had come to the fore from many startups. Custom duty on gold and silver has been reduced to 6% as well. Additionally, the Finance Minister further informed that customs duty slash on platinum will also be done. That is down to 6.4%. A host of developmental projects specifically for the states of Bihar and Andhra Pradesh were announced in this budget, which has given ammunition to the opposition. The Prime Minister, meanwhile, hailed the budget. He said this has strengthened every section of society and that crores of jobs will be generated, and that is only going to empower the youth. The youth of the country are in focus, is what the BJP has been speaking of.
Two tax exemption regimes. The two tax exemption regimes for charities are proposed to be merged into one. The 5% TDS rate on many payments is being merged into the 2% TDS rate, and the 20% TDS rate on repurchase of units by mutual funds or UTI is being withdrawn. TDS rate on e-commerce operators is proposed to be reduced from 1 to 0.1%. Moreover, credit of TCS is proposed to be given in the TDS to be deducted on salary. Further, I propose to decriminalize delay TDS up to the due date of filing statement for the same. I also plan to provide a standard operating procedure for TDS defaults and simplify and rationalize the compounding guidelines for such defaults.
Yeah.
Let's open this up. Joining me on this broadcast is Dr. M.I. Saidullah. He's the founder and chairman and MD of KIMS Healthcare. Sriram Balasubramanian, economist and author, joins us. And with me in the studio is Gurcharan Das, also an author and economist. Gurcharan Das, let me begin with you. Does this budget balance or find that balance between India's aspirations and the aspirational India?
I think so. I think so. You know, it's a surprisingly fine budget. And first of all, not a populist budget. Second, it's fiscally prudent. I mean, we are going on the path. 5.1 was announced in the interim fiscal deficit, 4.9 now,
yes,
and going on to 4.5. This is very good for the country's sovereign rating and the way and the price at the cost at which we borrow internationally. And there is a stability. There's a stability, a continuity, a simplification. All these are signs of a maturing country. There's a continued focus on infrastructure spending and the capital spending. There's the focus on the top priority of the country, which is jobs, jobs, jobs for youth. I mean, in innovative ideas, the idea of internships in 500 companies for a huge number of people, apprenticeship program, the first-time stipend for first-time job seekers, industrial zones, etc. But I think it's really the things that finally, the removal of the angel tax, I think is something that will make it'll go a long way. Because entrepreneurship is really the root. That's our India's strength, and that is the root, because it's really, there's a study in America which showed that the new companies are the ones that create jobs. Not the giants, not the mom and pop stores, but the new startups which become big. So I think that whole startup India story is a very, very important story. In terms of simplicity, I would say the one tax rate we are moving for all capital assets, whether it's gold, real estate, equity, listed, unlisted, moving towards that, I think is that. The new tax regime is a simpler one. There's the trend towards decriminalizing. Tax rates for foreign companies are coming down to the same level as Indian companies. And now they're talking about a long-term review of the Tax Act, which means that I hope ultimately that this idea of faceless assessment, which is the very best thing that has happened in the last 5 years for direct taxes, can also be applied to GST, to the indirect taxes, meaning import duties, etc. My disappointment is hardly any talk of privatization or the sale of the huge amount of excess lands that the PSUs and the government companies are sitting on. That's a great resource which is not being employed. And it's such an important source of revenue, not only to pay off our old debts, but also to give room for spending on education, health, etc. And I would say, if I'd have want my wish, I would have, if I were in Mrs. Sitharaman's shoes, I would have made some policy announcements, as Manmohan Singh used to do in his budget. Because the policy announcements really have to take us to where are the priorities of this government. And the priorities of the government is export of labor-intensive manufacturers. As a direct step that this is going to be the thrust of this government. So
lots of pros, very few cons for you as far as this budget goes. But I want to get into Sriram Balasubramaniam also on this. And let's speak of the tax being simplified, or the criticism is that you've put everything into one tax bracket. The kind of simplification that has happened, or the rate that has come to the fore, whether it's your financial assets or non-financial assets, what you would gather on gold or a non-financial asset is the same as real estate. That's something that shouldn't have been done, is what many critics are saying. How would you weigh in on that?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me here. I just wanted to, start off by saying that, congratulations to the finance minister. It's our 7th budget. It's a very impressive accomplishment in any country, and I think we have, sort of underplayed that impressive accomplishment. And the fact that it's been continuous for such a long time itself is something that we need to be proud of. I echo Guru Charanji's views on most of these issues. I think it's a budget which is a very responsible and pragmatic budget. It focuses on things, a sense of continuity. I think that is very important. You see this in mature democracies, and I think Bharat is also moving towards that. And the overall macro picture is very impressive. The 4.9% fiscal deficit, for this year, and the projected less than 4.5% in the coming years. I think it's a very good sign. Even on employment, I think a lot of the schemes worth about 2 lakh crores, especially the PLI, linked schemes. I think those are again very important schemes for the youth in terms of job creation, and the fact that it's sort of a nudge towards formalization, because a lot of the incentives are created, using the DBT and the EPFO. It sort of incentivizes employers to move towards formalization. And now coming to your point on taxation, I think I think what we need to look at is the big picture, right? I mean, Are we streamlining taxes to ensure that
Yes, I'm so
compliance is
sorry to
easier for
interrupt you
people?
there. We'll come back to this discussion on the budget, but there's some information that's now trickling in on an equally important issue, and this is to do with that NEET UG scandal, especially as far as the paper leak was concerned. The Supreme Court was hearing multiple petitions of whether or not a re-examination should take place. Now the Supreme Court has come out and said that there has been a systematic breach to the sanctity of the examination. This is what the CGI has said. There is absence of material on record to lead to the conclusion that the result was vitiated. That's what they've come out and gone on to say. Remember, the Supreme Court and the CGI, who was hearing this particular case, has time and again mentioned the urgency of this entire issue and that the fact that the fate of lakhs of students hangs in the balance, which is why the CGI was in favor of ending this hearing today, coming out with a judgment today. No student who is revealed to have been in the acts of wrong would be entitled to claim admission in the future, is what the CGI has also gone on to record in his submissions as that order was being dictated. Anshul, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details. Anshul, does this mean that there is going to be no retest? Is that the direction that the Supreme Court has gone in?
Well, that remains to be seen as to what the Supreme Court will decide eventually, but the manner in which the observations are being recorded and the observations that has been given out by the Chief Justice of India, he says that at this point in time, there is no material that has been found in the investigation that could actually substantiate the claim that the leak or the irregularities that has happened in the NEET exam, that is systematic and that has happened at a large level. Now, what the government, in fact, SG Tushar Mehta had in fact told the court that at this point in time in the investigation, approximately 155 students are being said to have been affected by the alleged paper leak. And the number is not big enough to actually go ahead and conduct a re-examination. And this is something that has been taken on record by the Supreme Court, where they have said that the investigation is still underway. And in the investigation that has happened till now, there is no material that could actually substantiate the claim of the prosecution that there was a systematic breach that might happen in the NEET exams, and that is what is being said at this point in time. It remains to be seen how will eventually the Chief Justice of India and the bench that is being headed by him give a decision, if at all there will be a retest for a specific number of students, or if at all there will be no retest. But yes, this is something that was on the lines, and this was something, in fact, in the closing arguments also picked up by senior lawyer Huda as well, who was...
Right, Anshul, sorry to interrupt you there. I'll come back to you, but Priyanka Chaturvedi of the UBT Sena joining us on the broadcast. Thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Your first reaction to the observations that are coming to the fore from the top court of the country?
The observation is pretty clear that there has been a paper leak in Bihar, while we had the Education Minister of India who lied on the floor of the House, saying that there is no incident of a paper leak. It speaks of how the government of India continues to run away from accountability. And it's a shame that it is always the Supreme Court which needs to step in to ensure there's accountability of governance.
Right, the flip-flops that were made by the Education Minister, by the National Testing Agency when this happened, that's something that the opposition has questioned time and again. I believe we've lost that line with Priyanka Chaturvedi. We'll try and reconnect that. Anshul continues to be with us though. Anshul, the court is also mindful of the fact that ordering a re-examination would have a cascading effect for multiple students, lakhs in this case. That is something that we would see only as a last resort, is what the court had observed last week in the hearing as well.
Well, definitely, when this entire argument was presented in front of the court on the 8th of July itself, when the Supreme Court had reopened after the summer vacation, this was the first thing that the Chief Justice of India had said, that if at all during the course of investigation or during the time period in which this matter is being heard in front of the Supreme Court, if at all it comes out that there was a leak or irregularities that might have happened at a large level and a systematic breach of the exams that might have happened, then only a retest would happen. But one thing is clear, and that has been said by the Chief Justice himself, that yes, a paper leak has happened.
And that's something that the CBI had also gone on record in its status report and said that at least as far as Hazaribagh and Patna were concerned, those two centres, there was an exam leak. Priyanka Chaturvedi, I believe, is back with us on the phone line. There was an error with your line, Priyanka Chaturvedi, but you were making a point about what the government was speaking of and the flip-flops that we had seen when the scandal broke.
No, what is unfortunate is not just a flip-flop. What is unfortunate is a total lack of accountability coming from the government. And even yesterday on the floor of the House when he said what he did, and the Supreme Court taking a totally different viewpoint and admitting there was a leak, which even the CBI report is saying. So it just goes on to show that somewhere this government believes it's above accountability, and it's a crying shame that the Supreme Court has to step in every single time to ensure this accountability of governance.
Right, Ms. Chaturvedi, the Supreme Court has now gone on to say that cancelling the entire exam is not justified because the material that's available on record does not show that there was a systematic breach that vitiated the entire sanctity at all. It was just this localized leak, what the government and what the CBI has been saying.
So Bihar police has also managed to find that it was an interstate racket, and it was a cross-border racket that is prevailing, and this is something which has been reported time and time again. While the Supreme Court's mandate and verdict is something that we all respect, however, what needs to be done is to ensure that there is, the lakhs of students who give the exams, their future is not put in a jeopardy because of such rackets that are running and people who are earning money out of these examination leaks. And this is not the first time it's happened. There have been multiple instances of leaks happening across the country, exams getting cancelled, exams getting rescheduled. So those are issues that we'll have to finally, want addressed.
So accountability is of utmost importance. Structural reforms as far as the National Testing Agency is concerned, that's also the need of the hour, is the chorus that's growing. Priyanka Chaturvedi, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Anshul continues to be with us, getting us more details. Anshul, the CJI has actually gone on to list the reasons why he doesn't think it's justified for a retest for every single person. Not only is that there will be a complete disruption as far as the schedule is concerned, but there are multiple levels at which these students would suffer, is what the court noticed.
Well, definitely, there was a petition that was filed by a bunch of tribal students, and they had gone ahead and said that if at all a re-NEET happens, then those students, those female tribal students, would have to travel all the way back to the cities where they have to give the exams, which actually has a massive burden on them. And this is something that has been taken on record by the court as well, where they have said that at this point in time, since there is no such material that provides such evidences that could actually substantiate the claim that there has been a systematic breach and there has been a paper leak at a large level. That is the reason why a retest is not needed, because if at all a retest is done for all students, then 23 lakh students will have to give a retest. They will all have to prepare yet again for the exams. The entire structure of the exams would have to be yet again maintained, which is a very, very lengthy process and is going to actually hamper the future of the students as well. Now, since in the investigation, the CBI has also gone ahead and said that at this point of the investigation, the word so far that has been mentioned by the CBI in its report, that becomes of very, very crucial importance, because the CBI says that so far in the investigation that has been carried out by them, it seems like that the paper leak was actually localized, and it was only in Hazaribagh and Patna, where approximately 15 to 17 students had benefited in Patna, whereas approximately 35 odd students had benefited in Hazaribagh, and this is where the entire nexus ends. But this is something that was not taken in the right note by the prosecution, as senior lawyer Huda, who was arguing from the side of the students. He said that what happens when the main accused, who is Sanjeev Mukhya, who is still at large, once he is arrested, and through his phone there are evidences that come to the fore that actually say that there might be other students who might have been benefited there, because he is a person who has been running this nexus of paper leakages for the past many years, and is operating in at least 5 states. So yes, this was something that was raised in the court, but since at this point in time, the CJI made one thing very, very clear over the last 2 days, that this is a matter that needs urgent hearing and an urgent solution, because the future of a lot of students are dependent on it. And that is the reason why the CJI has said that there is no need of a re-examination. There is no need. In fact, he has gone ahead and said that the NTA should go ahead with the counseling process. And in the same line, he has gone ahead and said that the Central Bureau of Investigation should also continue with this investigation and bring the entire investigation to its logical conclusion. So definitely, somewhere or the other, the CJI has tried to find a balance in its order. Neither the students who have been benefited, they have been pointed out at this point in time. The CBI and the NTA says that a number is of 155 students that they have demarcated as beneficiaries of the entire mismanagement or the paper leak that has happened. Apart from that, the remaining 23,73,000 students they were not benefited or their exams were not hampered in any manner. And that becomes one of the reasons for the Chief Justice of India to go ahead and say that there is no need of a NEET re-examination because the sanctity of the
Right.
entire exams does not
So an
seem to be
entire
hampered at this point.
retest is not required, is what the CJI has said. Arunima also joining us on this broadcast. But would there be a retest for those particular 1,500 students, 1,500 odd students? That's something that the court is yet to speak of, Arunima?
Yes, and I think the indication that we are getting is that it will be ultimately left to the NTA or to the government to come up with the right approach. Because what is being concluded is that there was this sense that the entire examination process was vitiated. Evidence available so far does not suggest that this kind of an assumption is correct. And therefore, the Supreme Court is also being cautious. After all, we are talking about lakhs of students. Even if we assume that about 1,000 or 1,500 at best were in centers which were affected, even though CBI's number is that around 150 students overall countrywide was affected. But even if we agree that in all those centers combined, there could be 1,000, 1,500 who are doubtful about that examination result, can you really jeopardize the future of 2 lakh plus students for the sake of that 1,500? So it's a tough call for the government there and for the Supreme Court of India as well. Let's just wait for a few more minutes to figure out as to what really CJI has on its mind.
Right, so we'll get more details as far as retest for a certain section is concerned. But what happens to counselling? That still was in limbo. That was expected to start sometime in the first or second week of August is what we were learning. There is going to be a retally, Arunima, as well, because there was one particular question that there were differing answers on. The IIT Delhi director was asked to look into that. They went back to court to go on to say that there's only one particular answer that should be considered correct. So there is going to be a retally that happens for specific students?
Absolutely. IIT Delhi was asked to do this, dummy test as to how much time does it really take to solve this kind of a question paper. What the Supreme Court is observing is that any student having individual grievance would have the remedy to approach the competent High Court. So, for example, if there is a center in Gujarat or there's a center in Maharashtra where students feel that, the exam process was vitiated, rather than cancel the entire examination process, Supreme Court is allowing those students to go seek adequate remedy at the local High Court, which means it's being localized. Supreme Court is trying to reduce the impact of this doubt that has crept into the minds of petitioners, at the same time not denying them a sense of justice. Justice should not just be done, it should be seen to be done. And therefore, the Supreme Court is giving them that option. But will that be enough? Even if you approach the High Court concerned, it will take weeks, if not months, for you to reach a stage where the final decision is taken. So in that backdrop, you just have to wait to hear from the petitioners if they think that this is justice that seems to be done or not.
Right, so we're still getting details that are trickling out of that hearing which is taking place in the topmost court of the country. Cancelling the entire exam is neither justified on the basis of the test that was laid down by the court, nor is there material available with the court to show that the entire exam sanctity was jeopardized. That's what the court has gone on to observe. That's what the CJI has gone on to observe. We are given to understand that the dictation of the judgment of the order is over. The SC has, the Supreme Court has also asked for strengthening of the National Testing Agency. Structural reforms of the National Testing Agency is something that was the need of the hour, is the demand that has come to the fore from many politicians, especially from the opposition ranks, from many educationists as well. So that's something that, Arunima, we could be seeing the centre take some steps in that direction as well?
Yes, in fact, the Union government has apprised the Supreme Court that they have formed a committee under the chairmanship of a former ISRO chairperson to abide by whatever direction the Supreme Court gives. The Supreme Court direction, for one, is that NTA must be strengthened. So how can that process be carried out? What are the reforms that the National Testing Agency requires? Those questions will be answered perhaps by this ISRO chairman-led committee. This is also very political in nature. We saw on the floor of Lok Sabha how opposition leaders get out Dharmendra Pradhan, the minister in charge, asking for his resignation, saying the students will never get justice if you are at the helm of affairs. So it's a political issue too. And what is being suggested right now is that the government takes into account the mood amongst the people at large, mood that is represented by opposition, mood that is represented by petitioners, and come up with a foolproof strategy, because this doubt that is creeping in about our education system is not good for the overall health of the country as well. That's what the Supreme Court is trying to address. The government saying we will follow suit.
Right, the judgment has ended is what we are learning. The Supreme Court has made some strong observations as far as the material on record is concerned, but the headline coming out of the Supreme Court over this entire issue is that there is no need for a re-examination at all levels. It's not justified given the evidence that was provided to this court, is what the Chief Justice of India said. I request Anshul and Arunima to stay on with us. We are slipping into a quick break, but our coverage here on this big story will continue.
Can you start?
And guardians for minors will be started. On attaining the age of majority, the plan can be converted seamlessly into a normal NPS account. Use of technology. We have successfully used technology for improving productivity and bridging inequality in our economy during the past 10 years. Public investment in digital infrastructure and innovations by the private sector have helped in improving access of all citizens, particularly the common people, to market resources, education, health and services. We will step up adoption of technology towards digitalization of the economy. Ease of doing business. For enhancing ease of doing business, we are already working on the Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0. Further, states will be incentivized for implementation of the business reforms, action plans, and digitalization. Data and statistics. For improving data governance, collection, processing statistics, different sectoral databases, including those established under the Digital India Mission, will be utilized with active use of technology tools. New pension scheme. The committee to review the NPS has made considerable progress in its work. I'm happy that the staff side of the National Council of the Joint Consultative Machinery for Central Government Employees has taken a constructive approach. A solution will be evolved which addresses the relevant issues while maintaining fiscal prudence to protect the common citizens. Budget estimates for 24-25. For the year 24-25, total receipts other than borrowings and the total expenditure are estimated at 32.07 lakh crore rupees and 48.21 lakh crore rupees respectively. The net tax receipts are estimated at 25.83 lakh crore rupees. The fiscal deficit is estimated at 4.9% of the GDP. The gross and the net market borrowings through dated securities during 24-25 are estimated at 14.01 lakh crore rupees and 11.63 lakh crore rupees respectively. Both will be less than that in 23-24. The fiscal consolidation path announced by me in 2021 has served our economy very well, and we aim to reach the deficit below 4.5% next year. The government is committed to staying the course. From 2026-27 onwards, our endeavor will be to keep the fiscal deficit each year such that the central government's debt will be on a declining path as percentage of GDP. Land-related reforms and actions, both in the rural and urban areas, will cover land administration, will cover 1. Land administration, planning and management, and 2. Urban planning usage and building bylaws. These will be incentivized for completion within the next 3 years through appropriate fiscal support. Rural land-related actions. Rural land-related actions will include 1. Assignment of unique land parcel identification number, UL PIN, or Bhu Aadhaar for all lands. 2. Digitization of cadastral maps. 3. Survey of map subdivisions as per current ownership. 4. Establishment of land registry. And 5. Linking to the farmers registry. These actions will also facilitate credit flow and other agricultural services. Urban land related actions. Land records in urban areas will be digitized with
Welcome back. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Poonam Burde. It is budget day, and today Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented her 7th consecutive budget. There's something for everyone, is how the BJP put it. The Prime Minister also came out and lauded the budget that was presented by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The focus was on job creation. The focus was on empowering youth. From women-centric development, we've moved to a women-led development, is what the government has gone on to say. But the opposition is not impressed. The opposition has already started taking pot shots at this budget, going on to say that not only has the government taken a leaf out of the Congress's manifesto, but they've also only favored 2 states or 2 allies, which is Nitish Kumar and Bihar, and the other, Chandrababu Naidu and Andhra Pradesh. All the other states have been neglected, is the criticism that has come to the fore from the opposition. To which the government simply said that there is a lot of allocation that has been made for all-round development of the country. It has nothing to do with just these 2 allies. The opposition continues its attack, but the focus, of course, remains on the 4 castes that the government looks at, like Nirmala Sitharaman pointed out, something that they've spoken of in the interim budget as well.
Joining us now is a leading industry voice. Kiran Majumdar-Shaw is chairperson of Biocon Industries. Thank you very much, ma'am, for speaking with us. What is your first big takeaway as far as this budget is concerned, particularly when it comes to the angel tax? I believe that's been a long pending industry demand. You must be thrilled that that's now been abolished.
Well, you know, Azaka, the underlying theme has been about job creation through skilling and through internship programs at companies, both through, government subsidies and CSR, which I think is the right approach in terms of creating jobs that are relevant and creating employability amongst the youth. As far as, the government is concerned, it has always supported the startup ecosystem, which, as you know, is a very vibrant and growing ecosystem. And one of the pain points and eternal grouses was the angel tax. And I think the government has done away with it, which is, of course, welcome news. And I think they're expecting that this will spur greater investment into the startup ecosystem. And I think, entrepreneurship has always been the right model for India to pursue when it comes to economic development. I'm also glad that they've actually focused on entrepreneurship even in rural India by increasing the Mudra finance amongst the youth from 10 to 20 lakhs. Let's hope that that really creates jobs, entrepreneurial jobs in the villages. So overall, I think the underlying theme is about jobs and employment creation, which I think is really something that this country needs to do in a big way. And given the fact that India wants to attract some of the manufacturing opportunities to India, I think, creating these kind of internship programs that will allow us to create the talent required for some of these manufacturing opportunities is the right approach.
One sort of red flag, at least from a market point of view, has been the increase in long-term capital gains tax and also short-term capital gains tax. Also, this concern about removing indexation from all asset classes, particularly from real estate. What do you make of that?
So, of course, they have marginally increased the long-term and short-term capital gains tax, which I think one ought to expect. In terms of the way wealth is being created in the country, especially given that the stock markets are always rewarding investors. I think from that point of view, I think wealth creation is going to attract higher taxation and it's marginal. In terms of indexation, I think we really have to see whether it's lopsided or whether it is got some kind of rationale behind it, because I think people are concerned that if the return on investment is low, then the taxation seems to be higher. Indexation seems to be creating these kind of anomalies, but I don't understand the sector too well, so I really don't want to comment too much.
Are you also, one sort of recurring theme of the Modi government's budgets in the past has been about capex and the increased outlay for capex. She's kept it at 11 lakh crores plus. At the same time, even though they've had to keep their allies happy in Bihar and in Andhra Pradesh, the fiscal deficit has actually reduced. It's 4.9% of GDP.
I think it's fiscal prudence. I think Nirmala Sitharaman has always focused on fiscal prudence, and she's done it once again. In terms of capex, I also want to focus on how do you get industry to invest in capital creation, and I think that's one area where I think I would like to see more granularity in terms of the PLI scheme, because there I think we wanted to make sure that the PLI scheme does continue in the sectors that they have identified, and increased PLI in these sectors, because I really think that you need much more capital investment in these sectors, especially the pharma sector. I'm also very pleased that research and innovation has got a good support from the government this time in terms of the 1 lakh crore allocation to this particular sector. Again, it remains to be seen how much of this is allocated to each sector, and we need to read the fine print in terms of whether it's going to come through grants, is it going to come through tax incentives, how is it going to come? But regardless of that, I think the fact that the government has recognized research and innovation as an important investment is music to my ears.
All right, one final word before we let you go. Again, I want to come back to the focus and the emphasis in the budget on youth, jobs, employment, whether it's the internships, 1 crore interns in the top 500 companies, 5,000 rupees for internships, 15,000 rupees in 3 tranches to first-time employees. Do you think there's now incentive enough? The finance minister used the phrase employee-linked incentive. Incentive enough to companies to start hiring, particularly at the entry level?
See, companies will only hire when they need employees based on the job opportunity. Based on their business opportunities. But having said that, I think the government is looking at creating new job and talent for for the manufacturing opportunities that are coming our way from China. So I think when you look at a lot of the large-scale manufacturing jobs that need to be created, do we have enough talent? Do we have enough jobs? Skilled jobs is the question. So I think having these internship programs is the right way to go. So let's try and build these, opportunities in the right way. And I think the government is thinking about all this. So whether it is, greening the businesses, whether it is climate initiatives, whether it is abolishing the angel tax on startups, everything is about, how do we kickstart the economy and get investment going, and of course consumption going.
Kiran Majumdar-Shaw, as always, a pleasure speaking with you, ma'am. Thank you very much for joining us here on CNN News 18 on our special budget coverage, the Modi government 3.0. By and large, industry seems to have welcomed much of the announcements made in the budget, certainly when it comes to this whole focus on jobs, internship programs, the emphasis on employment and employability, particularly the entry level. Poonam will continue with the rest of the news.
There is a lot for everyone. There's something for everyone is how the BJP puts it as far as Budget 2024 is concerned. Remember, this is the first budget of the Modi 3.0 government, the 7th consecutive one for Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Prime Minister himself came out and lauded the Finance Minister for walking that tightrope between populism and prudence. Economists give a thumbs up as far as this budget goes. The Aam Aadmi seems a little disappointed. We'll continue our coverage here on CNN News 18. For now, time for a quick break.
Can you start?
An IT-based system for property record administration, updating, and tax administration will be established. These will also facilitate improving the financial position of urban local bodies. Labor-related reforms, services to labor. Our government will facilitate the provision of a wide array of services to labor, including those for employment and skilling. A comprehensive integration of e-Shram portal with other portals will facilitate such one-stop solution. Open architecture databases for the rapidly changing labor market, skill requirements, and available job roles, and a mechanism to connect job aspirants with potential employers and skill providers will be covered in these services. Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal. Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal will be revamped to enhance ease of compliance for industry and trade. Capital and entrepreneurship related reforms, financial sector vision and strategy. For meeting financing needs of the economy, our government will bring out a financial sector vision and strategy document to prepare the sector in terms of size, capacity, and skills. This will set the agenda for the next 5 years and guide the work of the government, regulators, financial institutions, and market participants. Taxonomy for climate finance. We will develop taxonomy for climate finance for enhancing the availability of capital for climate adaptation and mitigation. This will support achievement of the country's climate commitments and green transition. Variable capital company structure. We will seek the required legislative approval currency for overseas investment. NPS Vatsalya. NPS Vatsalya, a plan for contribution by parents and guardians for minors, will be started. On attaining the age of majority, the plan can be converted seamlessly into a normal NPS account. Use of technology. We have successfully used technology for improving productivity and bridging inequality in our economy during the past 10 years.
Welcome back. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Poonam Burde. Today was budget day. Nirmala Sitharaman, the finance minister, presented her 7th consecutive budget. It's a budget for Viksit Bharat, said the government. The focus, of course, was on 4 castes, as they call it: the youth, the poor, the kisan, and women. We're now looking at women-led development, and that's what this budget focuses on, is what Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said. The Prime Minister soon after came out and lauded this effort, not just by the Finance Minister, but by the entire team. Listen in.
ये बजट समाज के हर वर्ग को शक्ति देने वाला बजट है। ये देश के गांव, गरीब किसान को समृद्धि की राह पर ले जाने वाला बजट है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में 25 करोड़ लोग गरीबी से बाहर निकले हैं। ये जो न्यू मिडिल क्लास बना है, ये बजट उनके सशक्तिकरण की निरंतरता का बजट है। इन नौजवानों को अनगिनत नए अवसर देने वाला बजट है। इस बजट से शिक्षा और स्किल को नई स्केल मिलेगी। ये मिडिल क्लास को नई ताकत देने वाला बजट है। देश और दुनिया ने पीएलआई स्कीम की सफलता देखी है। अब इस बजट में सरकार ने एम्प्लॉयमेंट लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव स्कीम की घोषणा की है। इससे देश में करोड़ों करोड़ों नए रोजगार बनेंगे। इस योजना के तहत जीवन में पहली नौकरी पाने वाले युवा की पहली तनख्वाह हमारी सरकार देगी। एनडीए सरकार ने पिछले 10 साल में ये सुनिश्चित किया है कि गरीब और मध्यम वर्ग को लगातार टैक्स से राहत मिलती रहे। इस बजट में भी इनकम टैक्स में कटौती और स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन में वृद्धि का फैसला लिया गया है। टीडीएस के नियमों को भी सरल किया गया है। इन कदमों से हर टैक्स पेयर को अतिरिक्त बचत होने वाली है।
Can you start banking?
Investment in digital infrastructure and innovations by the private sector have helped in improving access of all citizens, particularly the common people, to market resources, education, health and services. We will step up adoption of technology towards digitalization of the economy. Ease of doing business. For enhancing ease of doing business, we are already working on the Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0. Further, states will be incentivized for implementation of the business reforms, action plans, and digitalization. Data and statistics. For improving data governance, collection, processing statistics, different sectoral databases, including those established under the Digital India Mission, will be utilized with active use of technology tools. New pension scheme. The committee to review the NPS has made considerable progress in its work. I am happy that the staff side of the National Council of the Joint Consultative Machinery for Central Government Employees has taken a constructive approach. A solution will be evolved which addresses the relevant issues while maintaining fiscal prudence to protect the common citizens. Budget estimates for 24-25. For the year 24-25, total receipts other than borrowings and the total expenditure are estimated at 32.07 lakh crore rupees and 48.21 lakh crore rupees respectively. The net tax receipts are estimated at 25.83 lakh crore rupees. The fiscal deficit is estimated at 4.9% of the GDP. The gross and the net market borrowings through dated securities during 24-25 are estimated at 14.01 lakh crore rupees and 11.63 lakh crore rupees respectively. Both will be less than that in 23-24. The fiscal consolidation path announced by me in 2021 has served our economy very well, and we aim to reach the deficit below 4.5% next year. The government is committed to staying the course. From 2026-27 onwards, our endeavor will be to keep the fiscal deficit each year such that the central government's debt will be on a declining path as percentage of GDP. Land-related reforms and actions, both in the rural and urban areas, will cover land administration, will cover 1. Land administration, planning and management, and 2. Urban planning usage and building bylaws. These will be incentivized for completion within the next 3 years through appropriate fiscal support. Rural land-related actions. Rural land-related actions will include 1. assignment of unique land parcel identification number, UL PIN, or Bhu Aadhaar for all lands. 2. Digitization of cadastral maps. 3. Subdivisions, survey of map subdivisions as per current ownership. 4. Establishment of land registry. And 5. Linking to the farmers registry. These actions will also facilitate credit flow and other agricultural services. Urban land related actions. Land records in urban areas will be digitized with GIS mapping. An IT-based system for property record administration, updating, and tax administration will be established. These will also facilitate improving the financial position of urban local bodies. Labor-related reforms. Services to labor. Our government will facilitate the provision of a wide array of services to labor, including those for employment and skilling. A comprehensive integration of e-Shram portal with other portals will facilitate such one-stop solution. Open architecture databases for the rapidly changing labor market, skill requirements, and available job roles, and a mechanism to connect job aspirants with potential employers and skill providers will be covered in these services. Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal. Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal will be revamped to enhance ease of compliance for industry and trade. Capital and entrepreneurship related reforms, financial sector vision and strategy. For meeting financing needs of the economy, our government will bring out a financial sector vision and strategy document to prepare the sector in terms of size, capacity, and skills. This will set the agenda for the next 5 years and guide the work of the government, regulators, financial institutions, and market participants.
Welcome back. It was a budget bonanza for Andhra Pradesh and BJP's ally, the TDP, and its chief Chandrababu Naidu. Nirmala Sitharaman announced the government's dedication to funding and completing the Polavaram irrigation project, which is crucial for Andhra Pradesh, specifically for the agricultural community in the state. This year, more funds will be allocated to boost capital investment and foster economic growth also, is what she said. 15,000 crore rupee fund for the development of Andhra Pradesh's capital Amravati has also been announced in this budget. That decision well received, of course, by the TDP.
Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. Our government has made concerted efforts to fulfill the commitments in Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. Recognizing the state's need for the capital, recognizing the state's need for a capital, we will facilitate special financial support through multilateral development agencies. In the current financial year, 15,000 crore rupees will be arranged with additional amounts in future years. Our government is fully committed to financing and early completion of the Polavaram irrigation project, which is the lifeline. Under the Act, Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act, for promoting industrial development, funds will be provided for essential infrastructure such as water, power, railways, and roads. In Kopparthi node on the Visakhapatnam-Chennai Industrial Corridor and Varavakal node on the Hyderabad-Bengaluru Industrial Corridor. An additional allocation will be provided this year towards capital investment for economic growth. Grants for backward regions of Rayalaseema, Prakasham, North Coastal Andhra, as stated in the Act, will be provided.
Can you start
Taxonomy for climate finance. We will develop taxonomy for climate finance for enhancing the availability of capital for climate adaptation and mitigation. This will support achievement of the country's climate commitments and green transition. Variable capital company structure. We will seek the required legislative approval for providing an efficient and flexible mode for financing leasing of aircrafts and ships and pooled funds of private equity through a variable company structure. Foreign direct investments. The rules and regulations for foreign direct investment and overseas investments will be simplified to 1. Facilitate foreign direct investments, 2. Nudge prioritization, and 3. Promote currency for overseas investment. NPS Vatsalya. NPS Vatsalya, a plan for contribution by parents and guardians for minors, will be started. On attaining the age of majority, the plan can be converted seamlessly into a normal NPS account. Use of technology. We have successfully used technology for improving productivity and bridging inequality in our economy during the past 10 years. Public investment in digital infrastructure and innovations by the private sector have helped in improving access of all citizens, particularly the common people, to market resources, education, health and services. We will step up adoption of technology towards digitalization of the economy. Ease of doing business. For enhancing ease of doing business, we are already working on the Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0. Further, states will be incentivized for implementation of the business reforms, action plans, and digitalization. Data and statistics. For improving data governance, collection, processing statistics, different sectoral databases, including those established under the Digital India Mission, will be utilized with active use of technology tools. New pension scheme. The committee to review the
CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching the Budget Special on Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. We're joining you live from the CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented her first budget of the Modi 3.0 Sarkar, which also marked her 7th consecutive budget presentation. The FM outlined 9 priorities of the government